Remembering Austin Allen, the architect. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm your host, Lisa Olagus. In this edition, we learn about Austin Allen, the local architect whose legacy lives on in historic structures of prominence in the Joplin, Webb City, and Oronogo communities. Allen's history will be the focus of a special event giving access to buildings he designed and insight into who he was. The event is sponsored by Historic Murfreesburg Preservation, and we are joined today by board members Paula Callahan and Marianne Phillips to learn about the tour and Austin Allen himself. Ladies, thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So your tour features 15 of 18 structures that we have here in our area built between 1890 and 1917. So truly historic buildings. Let's talk about your big event. It happens December 3rd.
December 3rd, it's 1 to 6. It all starts at the Joplin Administration Building, the old Joplin High School. We'll start with a lecture by Brad Belk, and then people will get their tour brochures and go on their way and do the tour in any order they want to do it.
So Marianne, tell us, Southern historian Brad Belk is involved in giving that lecture. What's going to be the focus of his talk?
Well, he's going to tell about the importance of Austin Allen and Austin's life, but also his Austin's legacy. There's still like 14 buildings that we know of, and we're finding even more that are still standing, that are still being used, that were built, from 1900 to 1917. I mean, that's remarkable.
Right.
It speaks a lot for Joplin that we have saved him, but also the integrity of how he built those buildings.
Right, obviously good construction materials. One would
Well,
think.
and craftspeople.
Good craftsman, yes. So what prompted you, though, to look at Austin Allen? Apparently I heard there's a little box of archives that seemed to appear. Was it magical? Somebody dropped you this gift and said, hey, look at this stuff. It's Austin Allen.
It was pretty magical. We've always wanted to do an Austin Allen tour because he died so young. He died at 36.
Wow, I didn't know that.
That people didn't, there's not much written about him. We can't even find any. If you Google his name, you can't find anything about him.
Really?
So pretty much whatever we put on our website is all there is to know about him. And he was so important and so influential that we wanted to celebrate his architectures, but we didn't know enough about him. And the Joplin Museum got gifted a box of memorabilia from his estate.
Wow.
From his heir's estate.
His heir's estate.
Yeah.
There was no one to give it to, so the people that were managing the estate gave it to the museum.
So what kinds of things were in there?
Oh, all kinds of things.
Treasures.
Treasures, and actually a picture of him. We've never had a picture of him. We didn't know what he looked like. We've had a couple of broader images where he's part of the group and we know he's in there, but not knowing what he looked like, we didn't know which one he was.
Yeah.
And now I can go back to those pictures and I can pick him out now that I know what he looks like.
It really connects you to the person then.
Oh, it does. And then he was an athlete in college, as well as when he was going to his architectural school. He was an athlete. So his scrapbooks on all of his mates that he was in track with, and then also there was like a portfolio of the houses that he designed.
Wow.
So that helped us put some pieces together that we didn't know.
Yeah, I mean that is a treasure.
It's a treasure. It's a treasure.
It tells you so much more about him. I mean, to have a portfolio.
Yes.
Those are probably some of his earliest works then, I would presume?
There were many just of all of his works.
Yeah, oh, wow.
Yeah, and not completely. We know there's more.
Yeah.
But I mean, we discover one every time we go. When we start researching, we discover one more.
To think that he died at 36, he must have been very, very active, young in his career, because so many buildings are already built.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
he not only Joplin, but it was Oronogo, Galena, Kansas City.
Wow.
So we don't even know the extent of it yet.
So let's talk a little bit about the sites on the tour and what makes them significant. Let's go through kind of some of your list. You mentioned the Joplin High.
Joplin High, which would have been, he never lived to see it completed. So that and the Lennon Home was one that he never got to see completed.
But he had designed them.
He designed them. So we're going to see the clubhouse in Webb City. That was for A.H. Rogers for his trolley barn, and that's where the trolley people worked. We'll get to look at two construction sites, the Cleveland and the Olivia, that are in ongoing construction.
Okay.
So we're really excited about that because those are going to be our beautiful anchors for Murfreesburg.
Yeah.
This kind of those buildings. The Elks Building is one of his designs. The Jewish Hebrew Temple is one of his designs.
St. Peter, the
St.
Apostles
Peter's
Catholic
St.
Church.
Peter's the
Catholic
Apostle.
Church. And I mean, some of these they'll get to go inside, correct?
Yes.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah.
And I bet that's going to be interesting for people because you might drive by these buildings and go, wow, that's kind of cool looking. But to be able to get access inside is kind of interesting.
Oh,
'Cause
absolutely.
St. Peter's is open as a Catholic church, but you probably don't get to go into the Jewish temple very often.
Yeah, or,
Yes.
or you'd feel uncomfortable just
Right.
marching in. Same with City Hall. Anybody can go in Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. But if you have a job,
Yes.
you don't get to go in on a Sunday afternoon.
And we'll have docents there that explain the building, the architecture, and answer questions to people they might have. And
So the Newman building was City Hall, and I know there's an interesting story about him there, and he designed that. But tell us a little bit about what happened there when it was under construction.
Well, he and another worker were there and inspecting things, during the construction process, and they had some boards propped up with just boards. And he and this other guy literally fell from the 4th floor to the 3rd floor.
Wow.
But lived to tell the tale. They were scratched up a little bit, but each one was a doctor was called in. They looked at him and said, "Well, we don't think you need to go to the hospital. Nothing's broken," and so they took him home.
Well, he escaped death at that time, but obviously not later.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about his design style. I mean, because these buildings do sound like they're different structures, but did he have anything that made his structures unique or a style, or was it varied?
it was varied. Almost every structure, and of course there's churches, schools, homes, train stations, all kinds of different kinds of architecture, prairie style, and oh gosh, I can't even think of all the different
Chicago
architecture.
style,
Chicago
and,
style.
and of course, when you look at the Catholic Church and the Jewish Temple, they're so different. It's amazing that the same person designed it.
Georgian, one of them's Georgian. So he was very
Eclectic?
Eclectic.
I don't know.
Eclectic
maybe
is a good
eclectic
word.
mix of styles, yeah. So why do you think many of his structures withstood the test of time? Because there's a good number that are even on this tour. I mean, there's 18 existing, but 14 that they're going to be 14 or 15 that people can
14 that are on a national register,
see. Wow.
either a national or a local. And that's just amazing that many are still standing.
Yeah.
And I think it's part design, part historic preservation-minded people, but also I think they were just built strong. A lot of it too, though, is where they were. Where some that were torn down, it's because the land was more valuable than the building. And I think what saved Newman Building is 6th and Main is pretty much the heart of downtown. And so I think location saved some of them.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful
Yeah.
on the outside and inside as well. The inside has architectural features that you just don't see anymore.
You bet. Do you think his designs influenced other architects?
Absolutely.
In what ways?
Just the style and the clean lines, and he didn't do a lot of Victorian. He kind of was past the Victorian stage. So some of them look very Frank Lloyd Wright looking, like the clubhouse. So he was pretty cutting edge, and I think that he influenced other architects.
And I would like to think it's what the customer wanted too, or he influenced the customer.
Right.
Yeah, this is what
Maybe.
you want, or this is what
Yeah.
you need.
I mean, if he had that varied of a style, maybe he was really adaptable and said, okay, yes, we can try that, but he made it look good when he did do that. Are there other Austin Allen structures outside of our region, like maybe down in Arkansas or other areas? Do we know how far his reach extends?
We don't. Kansas City, and we can't really find anything in Kansas City. But we know that he was there. He was there. He had an office there. So
And a home.
And a home.
Not too far from the plaza, and it still stands.
His home does.
Yes,
Do you
yes,
think he
yes.
built his home?
No, it was already built when he moved in. And it's not named for him, it's named for the person ahead of him.
I see. So do you think Austin Allen had the recognition he deserved when he was alive? I mean, we're talking about him and you want to honor him, but you even said it was hard to find things on him.
I would say probably not.
I think maybe he was within his field because he was in the American Architect Society.
Right.
And I think he even held some offices too, which would have been nationwide.
Oh, wow.
And they had a lot of praise for him after his death, of course.
Yes.
But I don't think Joplinites realized what they had, because we had other architects too.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk again about your event, and there's a cost to the event, but you get a deal if you buy the tickets in advance, right?
Yes. It's at $25 if you buy them in advance. You can buy them from our website, murphysburg.org, and it's $30 at the door.
So how are funds used by your group when you have a fundraiser like this?
Well, we do all kinds of things. For one, just our website alone is expensive, and that's where we house all of our historical documents that we share with the world. Anybody that wants to look at them, we share them with the world. Also, we do things. We're working on a streetscaping event right now.
And sometimes you just need seed money to go on to the next event so that we can open these buildings and homes to the public.
We have insurance, and we have ongoing
Liability insurance.
Yeah, ongoing.
Keeping the neighborhood looking good.
Yeah, keeping the neighborhood safe and good. Yes.
Excellent. Well, we have much more to talk about. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, Paula and Marianne will delve into the personal history of Austin Allen and other areas he's impacted as an architect. As we go to break, a look at the schedule and how you can get tickets to the tour and lecture. Austin Allen, the architect remembered. Welcome back. We're looking at the history of Austin Allen, a Joplin architect whose elegant buildings are a testament to his talent. We continue our conversation with historic Murphysburg Preservation Board members Paula Callahan and Marianne Phillips. So let's delve into Austin Allen's past, about who he was. He wasn't born in Joplin, but he did move here. So tell us when he came
He and his
here.
mom and dad and siblings were from Pennsylvania, and then they came here to Joplin. And his dad was very well connected, and they got into real estate and things. But interestingly, he married a local girl whose parents were also very, very wealthy and very well connected, the John Taylor family. And so it was an interesting collaboration between his money and her money, and the connections and the land. And I sometimes I wonder, I think he still would have been a brilliant architect, but would he have had access to all this land to build on?
So there was a gift of land.
Yeah, his house, where the parents already owned those lots on Sargent Avenue, and the mother gifted him to her daughter, not to Austin, but to Austin's wife, for $1 and love and affection.
Aww.
That's all she wanted.
And her name was Belle, his wife?
His wife's name was Belle, yeah.
So then his house sits where? And it's still there?
Yes. Oh yeah, it's on Sargent between 1st and 2nd Street. It's a beautiful, beautiful house. And we believe, because of the pictures that were given to us from the archives, that eventually he put another story on top.
So did he design it to begin with?
Yes.
Oh,
Wow.
yes.
So
Yeah,
it was, it's truly his architectural drawings and his design. And you think when you're building your own home, maybe that really was an inspired design. Like that's what he would have really wanted if he built his own home, unless it's what Belle wanted.
Yeah,
well, there's that, or the mother-in-law wanted.
And Shake was one of the house of Shake, and that's what is one of his kind of signature styles.
Yeah, but there's
What
no other
defines
house
the
in
Shake
Murphysburg
style?
that looks like it.
Pardon?
What defines the Shake style?
The Shake shingle as for siding.
Yeah. And you said there's not a lot of other homes like that.
No,
It's unique in Murphysburg.
yes.
Okay. So you mentioned he got hurt in the construction. So let's talk about some of the significance of the places that he did design here in town. That we had talked about the fall of the Newman buildings, but many of the ones who are on the tour, he designed some homes too. We've talked about like City Hall, but there were homes maybe in other parts of Joplin that he designed?
Yeah, besides Murphysburg, there's several in Murphysburg, and then there's one up in North Heights. There's a couple in North Heights, and one kind of sits on the line between North Heights and Roanoke. That one's not on the tour, but and then of course he designed one for someone in Carthage, but then that was never built. And we also have the original architectural drawings of that house in Carthage.
Wow.
Which is kind of
You
interesting.
had mentioned also maybe some town homes in East Town.
Oh, yes.
Were those for like the average consumer, or did you have to be pretty wealthy to have an Austin Allen home?
That was part of his kind of claim to fame is, as he advertised it, is that they were modest homes, and they were bungalows and only a few rooms at that. But he purposely designed it to be affordable, to be modest, and to be close to the trolley lines.
Wow. So do you know what influenced him to go that route? I mean, maybe did he have friends or anyone that he thought, oh, I need to do this for the other part of the community? Because he was pretty well off himself.
That's a very good question. I think part of it is his mother-in-law owned the land.
So he was able to build on other properties first and then sell them.
Yes. Oh, yes, he did sell them. And we're in the throes of it right now, trying to figure out if any of them still exist. We've got the addresses from the probate, from both wills, and from the deed index from Jasper County. So we've identified 3 we think might be Austin Allen designs, but we're just now getting into that.
Now, one of the buildings does have a connection to Missouri Southern. So, Marianne, tell us a little bit about that history.
Okay. Well, it's a little bit of 6 degrees of separation, but Austin Allen designed what we call the Joplin High School, but it is now the Joplin School District building. Most people in town know it as Memorial Middle School. But that's where Joplin Junior College, or Jasper County Junior College, was in that building. So they coexisted in the same building. And then, of course, the powers that be said, yeah, we need to be a 4-year college. We need a bigger footprint, bigger area. So that's when they came to the present location here on Newman Road. But they bought the land from Frank Wallauer. Frank Wallauer was the second owner of the Austin Allen house. They were very good friends. They did all kinds of business together. And the Wallauers lived in the Austin Allen house for quite a while, many years. And he was there with his 3rd wife. And then they didn't donate, but they sold at a very good price the land that Missouri Southern sits on now, so that the school could be a 4-year college, university.
We talked about his fall at the Newman building. Did he typically work on the homes because architects don't always do the construction work, but obviously he was involved if he had that fall in the Newman building. Was he part of the construction crew?
Well, we know he was part of what at that time was called Joplin High School, because there was a concern that he died before it was finished. And so the architecture firm that he had aligned with in Kansas City, they assured the school board and the public that they would have another manager on site in Joplin to take over for Austin, since he was managing, boots on the ground kind of thing.
Otherwise, what was his family life like? Do we know anything more about him personally, or was this his life? Always designing
I
and
think
building?
that's probably was his life.
Yeah, you don't find a lot of things where, he did this at the Elks Club or this at the Rotary Club. He was pretty focused. And then plus at the end, he was going back and forth from Kansas City to Joplin. They had homes in both places.
They did?
Yes.
Okay.
Now his wife, she was deep into society and had a lot of clubs and started travel clubs. And now, do we have time to tell about her going to Germany with 3 young children before World War I? Now, did people know that the war was going to start? I don't know, but she got trapped in Germany, and the government wouldn't let her out, and she had trouble getting money. Them sending money to her. All the postcards and the letters that she wrote home were all censored, and they all had to be written in German. She couldn't even, so she had to have a translator write them in German, and they'd come back. And every letter and every postcard that would come back to Joplin made it into the newspaper.
Amazing.
Yeah.
His socializing, or the social society page was really something that was in the newspaper.
It was pre-Facebook, so everybody knew your business.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Olivia, which is another building. We're going to talk more about those renovating it, but what's the personal connection to the Olivia? Because there is, right?
Right.
Besides him building it, the family was involved.
Well, yeah. Besides Austin designing it, he grew up almost across the street at 419 South Moffett, and his parents also, his in-laws also lived on Moffett, just a spit away from the Olivia. And then his parents eventually came to live at the Olivia.
How nice. So he
Yes.
basically helped design a building. Was a huge place for someone to live.
Oh,
So were they
yes.
just there as an apartment, or were they there living in the whole
Oh, in
Palatial
an
City?
apartment.
In an apartment.
Yeah. they're
So
in
it's
apart-
always been apartments
It's always been
Yes,
apartments.
yes,
There's
yes.
about, I think there was 34 apartments
at the
there.
time. Yeah. Well, we are going to hear more about the Olivia. So ladies, thank you for all the information you have shared. And we're going to be talking more about that in a moment in the Olivia. When we come back, we will be joined by Sawyer Smith, who is currently driving the effort to restore and renovate the Olivia Apartments to preserve its history and its future.
Hello from the studios of KGCS TV. I'm Lydia Carlson, a communications major here at Missouri Southern. We're making lots of changes to modernize the TV station and bring you better quality video and content. But we need your help. We want to find out how you watch KGCS and what you like to watch. So we'd like you to take a quick questionnaire. It's as simple as holding your phone over the QR code on your screen. That code takes you to a link where you will see a short survey. If QR codes aren't for you, find a link to the survey on our Facebook page. Thanks for watching KGCS TV.
Welcome back to Newsmakers, where we are focusing on the structures of Austin Allen, the architect. Joining our conversation now is Sawyer Smith with Blue Haven Investments, which is working to restore the Olivia apartment building. Sawyer, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So the Olivia Apartments made the news when part of the roof collapsed, bringing rain damage, and it was already a fragile vacant building. So why did you want to take on this project, and what would have happened had you not intervened right, or somebody intervened right away?
Waking up that morning in December, the headline was a fire on a building, and we had recently just bought the YMCA building, and so my first thought was, the YMCA building just burned. It wasn't that, but then we started talking with people from the Downtown Joplin Alliance. Jeff Neal from Neal Group Construction was talking to us about it, and pieces just fell into place that needed to happen quickly to save the building, and we ended up taking ownership of it and committing to renovating the building into apartments.
So you did the roof first, pretty
Yeah.
priority, right?
Yeah, the city gave us a grant, and we had to do dollar for dollar matching funds, but we were able to get the roof on in quick time. And I mean, architect or an engineer at one point said if we had waited a month, that building would have had to come down with the amount of water that was in it. If we weren't able to get it dry in time, it would have had to come down. So
That's
it was close.
amazing.
It was cutting it close, yeah.
And it is a gorgeous, it has been a gorgeous structure. I was there decades ago, you know, when people were living apartments there. You could just see that it had such great bones and had a ballroom and beautiful, you know, columns. So for you, when you're working on it, what is the approach? You know, when you have to do research to kind of get that history, right?
Yeah, so there's a lot of research to get the history, but there's caveats in there. The powers that be don't want you to make it exactly the way because they want it to be very obvious what is historical and what isn't.
Okay.
And when we went in there, the building was completely waterlogged, and so we had to rip almost everything out to the studs.
Wow.
And so going back, the trick is to maintain its historical character, but not try and imitate exactly what happened because you want a distinction of what is actually historical and what is new.
Yeah. You were seeing up close and personal the bones of the Austin Allen structure. Is there something about that makes his work special?
There's a whole lot of things about it that makes his work special. Just to name a few, I mean, the framing, we're keeping a lot of the original framing, and there are things that still have us scratching our heads as to why they built it like that, but also doesn't seem wrong,
Yeah.
but just different than
For
building
example?
code right now. Over door frames down on the ground floor apartments, there's a lot of like triangle framing over these door frames, and you don't do that anymore. But they're in there, and they look really neat. There's a couple other things that really stand out as to the genius of the design. If you're in that building on a 100-degree day with humidity, and you're in the back in the alley, there's a little back area that we're going to build a patio for the coffee shop or bar that goes in there. And it's always like 10 to 15 degrees cooler than everywhere else. The thermal barrier, whatever it does, it's just amazing. And that building retains its temperature very well. It's very efficient in that regard. And so a building that was built in 1906 does a much better job than modern buildings at being
Temperature controlled.
temperature controlled. Yeah, an efficient building, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So give us a little history about the building itself, if you have it. I mean, when did it go up? So you said 1906?
1906, and
And it was first apartments?
it was always apartments, yeah. It did have a a fine dining area on the 5th floor that I know was a staple. I'm not the one to speak on the history of the
Okay.
building. I'll say that
I do
first
know it
and
had a
foremost.
ballroom.
And that was it. So there was
was
the
it,
dining
okay.
room / ballroom up top. There was a private dining area, and then the rest of it was apartments. And to my knowledge, it was at one point in time like the destination to live in the Joplin area.
That's
so,
cool.
Yeah.
Have you made other interesting discoveries as you kind of tore things out? Did you find things that you're like, oh, hey, look at this?
I mean, the structure itself is in great condition for having been neglected for a number of years, and then also having the roof burned off. It held up very well, again, it's just a testament they built things different back then. And the lumber in there, I mean, we're trying to reuse as much lumber as possible. So all the doors, if we need to replace doors, we're taking old 2x4s ish that were used back in the day and milling them down for door frames, because you can see how old, and by old I mean how old it was when they put it in, the wood was, which makes it a much more stronger product when you're putting it
see.
into that building.
Okay.
So little things like that you notice, just things were built different back then.
A lot of
There's-
good materials there.
Absolutely.
What
yeah.
percentage of the work is complete from your vantage point?
Well, all the
Are you on schedule?
on schedule, yeah. It is a big project, and we are doing everything we can to keep it on schedule. Right now, framing's done, so we had to frame out the top floor and do some framing adjustments throughout the building. But that's done, and we have our permits complete on that. And then right now we're putting in mechanicals. So if you're on the 5th floor, you're going to see plumbing, electric, and HVAC going in on that top floor. Hopefully by the end of the year we have sheetrock going in up there, which would be great. And then we have on the exterior, we've done all the tuck point, all the windows are in place now, and all the balconies are ordered and in, and will start going up. And so the exterior of the building is going to start looking really cool soon.
Which would be great, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you hope to show people who take this tour?
I mean, the second you walk in there, you're seeing marble imported from Italy, like on the walls. You're seeing a lobby that was designed just completely different than how things are designed today. That was like the epitome of class, and still is. And we hope to go back and make it look like that. And so, yeah, when you're doing the lobby, or when you're doing the tour, you're going to see that lobby first thing as you walk in. I think we'll be able to see some of the apartments downstairs and how those are laid out. They have been barely modified for modern day living, but we're trying to keep the layouts as close to what they used to be as possible. We did have to change stuff because only the bottom floors had kitchens back in the day, because everyone else just went to the restaurant. So we had to add kitchens in
I see.
for
Yeah.
modern living,
You
right?
bet.
So there's a few of those little tweaks. If anybody used to live there, they're going to see now that we've tweaked it around to make it more accommodating to modern living, but still keeping that historic character as much as we can.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sawyer, and we hope everybody enjoys the tour. Thank you
Yeah.
for being here.
Great.
Good luck with all your work.
Thank you.
We hope people take advantage of this opportunity to see Austin Allen's work up close. So thank you, Sawyer. And that wraps up this edition of Newsmakers. If you want to take the tour, mark your calendar for December 3rd. You can even go online and get tickets now for the historic Murfreesburg Preservation Tour and Lecture, Austin Allen, the Architect Remembered. Thanks to our guests for sharing so much local history, and thank you for watching. For Newsmakers, I'm Lisa Allegas.